Jill made her way back downstairs and into the meeting room, after taking a few moments to calm herself down from her emotional breakdown. She understood why Mutro's uncertainty about the situation, but at heart she was an officer and she had a duty to fulfill. Upon reaching the meeting room, she relied, when she had caught on to the comm system, to Brad and the others. Mutro is uncertain about it, but we gotta help them. They have civvies down there. Jill added to the point drive home. Brad nodded in understanding. You're the best of us, Jill. If anyone can get those civilians out of the city, it's you. I'll stay here then. They'll need what guidance I can give. I might not have been able to be in that mansion like you do, but I saw plenty enough. And I've killed my fair share of these monsters before I found you. Go find Carlos, and uncertain if he was there to help. And take this radio so we can be in contact. Nodding with a smile, she took the radio and ran out with the rod in hand. I know you said you had misgivings about this, Neptune, but we've got civvies in trouble, and I've got to help any way I can. Too many people have suffered today, she said, with determination burning in her eyes as she made a beeline downtown. Before she made it through the station gates, however, Brad had called out from her from the front doors. Valentine, here! He threw her a weapon to her. It was a CQBR assault rifle. You'll need it for that big fat bastards you tracked down. Ammo is limited though, so use it sparingly. Thanks. Jill smiled back at him and strapped it onto her back before taking off again, opening and closing the gate behind her. Ready, Neptune? Yes, though it would have been faster if you went through the garage. Unfortunately, with the access cut off, that means we will have to go the long way around. There's still a side street going through around the building. I've marked it on the route on the mirror. Follow that road, then take a side passage by Kendo's gun shop. I suggest you speak to Robert as well, if he's still there. Got it, Jill nodded, and pulled out her mirror. She began to follow the path that was shown in her reflection, shooting down zombies that got in her way wherever she went. Several abandoned vehicles made her passage difficult, in addition to the undead attacking her. However, she was able to use her superior speed and intelligence to avoid having to fight. It was usually when dogs attacked that she had to fight. After eventually looping around and climbing the fire truck that had blocked the street, Jill was finally behind the station. She thought about going back inside, but with the electronic gate still active, there was no way to access the garage, since Irons has confiscated her pass along with the STARS badge, so she moved on, heading towards the Kendo's. It was rather convenient that her favorite gun shop was right behind the station. She'd have to speak to one of them anyway, because the side gate was locked and only the Kendo's had the key. Alright, let's see if he's in. Jill then pressed her hand on the door and entered the doorknob. Kendo, hello, are you there? She called out at the closed door behind her, locking it. She really hoped that he was alive. She didn't receive an answer, so she looked around. The shop was trashed, and nearly everything that had been on display was gone. There was a shotgun part, but without a shotgun. It was useless. Some gunpowder remained, so she could make the ammo, though. As she explored, she went around the back of the till, and Robert jumped her. Whoa, Jesus, Jill. Don't sneak up on me like that. I almost shot you. Robert? Oh, thank God you're okay. Jill sighed in relief before the two embraced briefly. It's good to see another familiar face around here. Yeah, well, you can't be too careful. With everything that's been going on, he seems apprehensive, worried, and we kept looking around. He was like paranoid that something was about to be attacked. I know, trust me, Jill nodded, but also noticed his anxious behavior. You alright? She asked. He ignored her at first, and looking back at her and watching through the doors. He only reacted when she touched him in his arm. Oh yeah, I'm fine. It's nothing, just really keeping a close eye on the things. His demeanor changed almost immediately. I heard on the radio that some people may be using the subway to get out of the city. That's good thinking. His eyes wandered to the back of the shack behind the shop, where he lives with his daughter. He looked worried. Are you sure you're alright? Jill asked, placing a hand on his shoulder. Yeah, no, I'm good. He cleared his throat again. Hey, listen, why don't you go on ahead? I'll make other arrangements. Something is bothering him. He seems fixated on that shack. He walked over to the shack door. Don't worry about me. I'm sure the others could use your skills. You can fight those creatures. That's your job, right? He laughed nervously as he entered the closed door. You could take whatever you want from the shop if there's anything left. If you need to access the alley, the key's on the wall. Good luck out there, he said, through the door. Thanks, Kendo. Stay alive for us, yeah? It'd be hard enough to find another badass gun maker like you, she called back to him. Aw, nah, I'm not about to do anything you wouldn't. That's not really my job, right? As Jill was about to take the key to scour for supplies, she heard a soft voice, yet yelled distorted, another from behind the shack door. She then walked over and eavesdropped. Daddy? It's okay, sweetheart. Daddy's here. He's not gonna leave you. You're gonna be fine, sweetie. Everything's gonna be fine. Was that his daughter? Jill whispered to Neptune as she listened, but her voice sounded wrong, almost as if her heart sank at the point, and Jill clasped a hand over her mouth. Oh dear goodness, no! That's why Kendo seemed anxious. The girl must be infected. It's as likely that they were attacked and she was bitten. Poor child. Well, there's nothing you could do to help Kendo. We should move on. A thought crossed Jill's mind. If Robert was the only one there, where was his brother Joseph? We should go, Jill whispered to Neptune, and began to back away from the door, grabbing the key along the way. If Robert saw that she was there, he would possibly flip out. So she took Mutro's advice and left. Seeing a little any of use of inside the shop, she used the key to unlock the padlock from the gate and passed it through the end of the alley, turning and entering the small house. Perhaps it had belonged to one of the Kendos? There was no one inside, but there was some useful stuff in the upstairs bedroom. A locked suitcase containing the shotgun shells, which she packed open. Full of explosive grenades, shells, and a first aid spray. Definitely should come in handy later on, Jill said to herself, then placed them onto the bag holding that Wesker had given her a while back. Once the items were packed away, she exited the house, looking around to make sure no one suspected surprises. Luckily for her, nothing had happened to be around, and the area was clear. Working her way through, she passed through a substation that was currently of interest to her and climbed over the barricade into the downtown. To her left was a toy store, and down the few steps right was a donut store at the far end. It was blocked by a metal barrier, which the zombies battered on. A small drugstore was also nearby, but the doors was barreled with the metal chains. To get in, she'll need bolt cutters. That's just great, bolt cutters. Jill blinked for a moment before smacking herself on the forehead. She had magic. Why am I so slow sometimes? She muttered to herself before walking over to the doors. Swiping her wrist, a spear of water slammed into the chains, smashing them apart. Inside the small drugstore, as you expect, was a multitude of bottled drugs. Surprisingly, the store hadn't been looted during the zombie outbreak. Most of the drugs were still on the shelves, including several sprays and healing herbs, but there was also a rather ornate box on the till. Where it came from, or who it belonged to, was a mystery. Even odder, there was a large bottle of gunpowder next to it. Interesting place to find something like this, she said as she picked up the box and carefully looked it over, trying to figure out how to open it. There were no special catches or locks. The lid simply lifted up. Contained inside was a diamond-shaped gemstone, shining in blue. What was it for? I'm holding on to this for now. Maybe it could be used for something. Jill placed it in her bag. Now I then gotta get to the train station and find this Carlos person. She left the drugstore since she didn't need anything else from there, although she decided to take a bottle of pain pills and some hemostatic medicine, in case if anyone had bleeding injuries, which was likely back outside. Mutro's map directed her down the alleyway to her right, which would loop around the building to the left, where the entrance to the station was. As she reached a shutter, some panicked civilians arrived and rushed past her to the station. It was clear moments later. The black trenchcoat monster appeared again, standing at the end of the alley staring before her. Before Jill could decide on what to do, it rushed forward with a surprising speed in an attempt to trap the tentacle around her. However, Jill was faster and rolled away from it, causing it to almost collide with the wall in front of it. "Pretty fast for someone your size," Jill barked at it, with her hand on the rod. "How about you pick on someone who can fight back?" It roared at her, pulling itself out of the rubble like that, and that hadn't felt a thing. Then Bull rushed at her all the way for a heavy overhand slam. Once more, Jill backflipped out of the way, landing on her feet. Virtual clutchered freak. Snapping out of her rod, Neptune planet powder. Then the BOW rushed at her again, more binding light as the rod gave her, of recoiling backwards, using one of its meeting hands to try and shield its vision. As she transformed, she didn't realize that the man she had still come to support was watching her from around the corner. His eyes went wide in shock as she morphed. The oversized beast of the creature quickly recovered from the flash and extended its tentacle from the right hand. Now it had like a whip-like weapon. It lashed her out with. Neptune cartwheeled out of the way in the mirror, and now it had submarine reflection. She fired off, launching the beam of sea green like water at the monster, but beam merely bounced off of his overcoat. It lowly growled at her stalking towards her. "That's some tough protection. Maybe I just need a bit more power." Gathering her magic at their palms and raising her arms above her head, "Neptune, deep submerge!" She then hollered and unleashed a beach-sized ball of raw energy into the beast, sending it skidding back a few feet. However, the beast had blocked it with its arm, although the energy ball had blown off the shoulder plate of its overcoat. A deep gurgle emitted from it as if it was laughing. The beast was mocking her. While she charged up another, the BOW whipped at her feet with its tentacle, tripping her up and dragging her towards it. It reached down with its left hand and grabbed her neck, pulling her up to the air and strangling her. Neptune squirmed before slapping a palm to its face, unleashing a burst of energy into its coating, blinding it and making it let go of her, making her fall on her butt. She coughed a few times, trying to get air back into her aching lungs, as the beast stumbled around, trying to regain its vision. Neptune looked around and saw the man who was watching her, launch a rocket at the beast, which was caught by its tentacle and flew backwards. Blowing up a car, he launched another one with his struck this time, causing an explosion and blew several meters away from the large fireball. It was heard groaning as an attempt to pick itself up. It held its right arm, groaned and collapsed to the ground. Whether it was dead or merely stunned, neither of them cared to find out. Neptune quickly got to her feet, just as the man came over sprinting towards her, slinging a rocket launcher onto its back. "Are you Carlos?" she asked, slightly massaging her aching throat still. "Yeah, that's right. And now I'm saving you. Come on," he said, throwing her arm over his shoulder and helping her walk up to the station entrance. He slammed on the shutter closed just to make sure the beast couldn't get in if it suddenly got back up. "Hey, thanks for the save." Neptune gave a small smile, she being able to regain her strength. "I owe you one back there." "Don't mention it, just doing my job," he said, and walked over to the thicket barrier and down the stairs. The shutter there was closed. "Ah, fuck. Who's the dumbass who closed this? Fine, we'll have to go around then. Come on." He walked over to a door and shuttered it open. "Seems like the guy likes you. It knows what it wants and it won't stop until you gets it. Don't you take it that in a man?" "Sorry, A, I'm already taken, and B, that thing's a monster, and I can't do that," Neptune replied, with a scoff as she followed him. "Name's Carlos Oliveira, and I am the Umbrella Biohazard Countermeasure Service. We are here to rescue civilians that contain the situation. I assume it was you I had contact earlier." "Yeah, that was me." Inside, Jill was peeved. He was saved by someone from Umbrella? But for some reason, he didn't seem that type of person with an organization like him. If he was truly on her side, he would have left her to die to that something. Yet her anger for Umbrella caused her to moment to go away. "But you're with Umbrella. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? Are you guys the one that started all this?" Carlos turned and looked confused. Hey, whoa, what the hell are you talking about? We're just here to help you out. Neptune looked indignant. Bullshit! Your employers are responsible for infecting the entire city. Carlos again refuted this. Yeah, I don't know anything about that, he said, shoving open an open door. He paused and turned around to face her again. Look, you don't have to trust me, but I'm going to the shelter. You coming? He didn't want to wait for her answer, taking off down the stairs towards the stationary subway train. Neptune sighed and looked around the mirror. What do you think? She asked. To be honest, she was torn. The man had helped her out against a monster, yet he was working for the same people that caused the disaster, but he seemed to be so sincere with her. I've heard about this UBCS. Most of them are simply mercenaries, hired hands. I doubt any of them actually care for the company that pays them. You don't necessarily have to trust all of them. But that man Carlos, he seems trustworthy enough. Neptune nodded and followed Carlos through the door, only to find him waiting for her with a small smirk on his face. She had noticed his eyes wander from the form that she was in, before holding up to his phone, showing a recording, making her gape a bit. A little insurance, in case if you decide not to trust me and get physical. With one button press, I could broadcast this across the entire planet. But if you help us, I'll delete it. And before you call bullshit and say I'm blackmailing you, well, yeah, but you're the one who is hostile. Neptune clutched her jaw and balled her gloved hands into fists, her eyes shining a bit. You guys are all the same. I'll help, but not for you, she hissed. Is that so? Look, lady, I could have easily just let that thing kill you. It's not after us, he retorted. He's got you here. Neptune said nothing and shot daggers from her eyes before stepping into the train, where she stepped on a couple more men inside, dressed like soldiers with the UBCS crest on their suits. One was supporting a rather nasty wound on his side. Hey, Captain, I brought backup. Hopefully she chooses to be friendly. She doesn't like us much, Carlos said with a half chuckle. The older man, whose hair and beard was white, looked up at her as she sat down. And you didn't even ask to find lady her name? He stated, a thick Russian accent coming through. She's a member of RPD Special Tactics and Rescue Services. Her name is something Valentine. Neptune narrowed her eyes before a flash of sea green. She shifted back to Jill. Behind her, Carlos' eyes widened her for a brief moment. It's Jill, she spoke in a clipped tone. Well, Jill, I am UBCS Platoon Commander Michaela Victor. We are here to rescue civilians. He stopped as his wound pained him, prompting Carlos to pull out a med kit and started putting stuff together. My team was ambushed and destroyed. You're looking at what's left. We plan on getting this train moving to the civilians to safety, but there is no power on the tracks. Reports from the command indicate that almost 100,000 civilians all wound up dead and undead. We are doing all we can, but we need help. Jill sighed and ran a hand through her hair. One thing she wanted to tell was to go screw themselves, but Carlos had that video of her. Damn it, how could she have been so careless? She brought up trying to defend the feeling civvies. Then again, maybe he was simply bluffing. She had a little choice. She could take the risk. All right, I'll help, but I'm doing this for them, not for you, she then finally said, keeping her tone even. Oh, hey, that's cool. We're all friends here, Carlos cut in. Thank you, Jill, Michaela added, sounding sincere. Carlos reached into his pocket and pulled out a small side pack. Here, you might find this useful. There was ammo inside. I've already seen you got a radio. Let's sync up so we can keep in contact. Then once you head down topside, I'll instruct you whatever you need to do and wherever you need to go. Jill nodded and took what Carlos offered her, storing it away in his bag. She then turned to the mirror. Shall we, partner? Lead on, Jillian. As she was about to leave, she overheard a tidbit from Carlos and Michaela. Shit, Captain, those things really took a chunk out of you, Carlos said as he sprayed the wound. Nothing, I will, miss. Michaela replied stoutly. So, Captain, the stories about the sailor soldiers, it sure seems like they're true now, doesn't it? It matters not if they're real or not, powerful as they rumored to be. They are only human like us. They can be overwhelmed. They can bleed. They can die like us, Michaela dismissed. But Captain, you saw what happened to Jill. She's one of them. I saw her transform into Neptune when she fought that monster. At this, another Russian voice entered the conversation. His voice was less thick and more indignant. Sounded like an asshole. A few fancy magic tricks aren't going to save them from the undead nightmare. We shouldn't trust her. She is Stars and is a dangerous pain in the ass for Umbrella. Sarge, that's bullshit. I know Jill. From everything I've heard, she's damned to hero. That mission was... Carlos attempted to refute. Enough. The walls have ears, gentlemen. We must focus on what we're here for. Then we can go home. Michaela ended the argument. Jill looked down for a bit and thought, feeling a pang of guilt. Carlos was defending her, and she labeled him as bad as Umbrella. Sighing, she took it backwards once the man looked down at her, making her way to the surface. This time on the opposite side of the train. I guess I was the one who was wrong about that guy. But I still can't get over that, actually. Ugh, she groaned. Given Umbrella's reputation as of late, you could blame him for covering his own ass? I don't believe he actually followed through with that threat. I think he was just trying to get you help any way he could. I guess so. Still, our main priority is to get the power back on so they can have those innocents leave the city. So we also need it for the power substation, Jill says. But I know our friend is out there, looking for us. So Murtro, you're taking the wheel for a bit. I'll say again, don't waste my energy unless that creature shows up. You could run around for an hour and not see him. You'll be sorry if you need me and I don't have the energy to transform. Alright, I'll keep you on standby just in case. But knowing my luck, she trailed off, leaving her sentence hanging, but the point was made. Don't be so pessimistic. Nodding in understanding, she decided to make her way down the street, and that was when her radio went off. Jill, you on topside yet? The old tanks got me clearing the tracks. Can you get the subway's control systems back online? I'm topside and I'm headed to the power station now. I'm also keeping an eye out for that beast. I didn't see him outside when I got up, so he's probably elsewhere, Jill replied. Lucky you. Well, once you get to the station, you'll need to reactivate the startup sequence. You might have entered the electrical area and manually restore power. After that, radio me and I'll guide you to the subway's company offices. You can map out a route for the subway here. Watch your back, Super Cop. Got it, Jill replied, affirmatively before placing the radio back on her hip. Walking out of the entrance, she found herself in the back of the street again. Near the pharmacy and toy store, it occurred to her that there was an odd device in the back that looked like a clock, missing some gems. She had one, but they were free that needed. Maybe it'd be worth hunting them down to see what secrets the device held. But then she recalled she had already had one in her possession. Oh, wait a minute! She walked back to the clock, took out the gem and placed it on the correct slot. Now then, let's see what it does. A few panels of the gem face lit up, and it was a slot at the bottom of the clock opened, revealing a custom shotgun stock. If she found one, this would be useful. Sweet, I better hold on to this for now. Maybe I could find a shotgun around here somewhere. Jill then slid it into her bag for safekeeping. Well, at least I know now what this thing can do. I better find 2 more of them if I want to get what this thing's hiding inside. With nothing else to do for now, she returned to the street. Working her way back around the pharmacy, she wandered over to the toy store. Normally she wouldn't bother with a place like this, but looking for the glass door, she spotted another of those ordinate boxes and the first gem she was found in. However, the door was padlocked, and she didn't have a lockpick with her. But she had no problem for her, conjuring her magic once more. She smashed the padlock, breaking it apart, allowing her entrance. Number 2, Jill smiled as she picked up the box and opened it up. A green gem. Now there was one box somewhere else to be found. Storing away the gem for now, she left the toy store and walked back out to the streets. So far, no sign of the monster that was chasing them earlier. She hoped it was elsewhere in the city far from her. A light from the alleyway near the building caught her attention, given some ways off the streets that were blocked by barricades. This was the only way to go. As she approached, Jill realized that the alley was on fire. There's gotta be some way to put out this fire, she said to herself, picking up the radio and paging Carlos. Carlos, the way to the substation is blocked by fire. Any other way around? Sorry, no can do. The other venues cut him off from your position, and surely a tall drink of water like yourself could put out these flames. Jill scoffed and swore at him. Then she cut the connection to him and clipped the radio back into her skirt. What the hell was she supposed to do now? As she was paced about trying to think of her next move, the barricade leading down the donut shop began to rattle as zombies pushed against it. Her out of her thoughts, snapping it. She then slipped the assault rifle Brad had given her from her shoulder, checked the safety and switched it off to 3 round bursts. Just as the zombies tripled the barricade, opening the fire, she dropped them with easy precise. Calm burst shots on the head. 2 more approached, and then she removed her sidearm from its holster and shot a red explosive barrel, blowing them up. That was easy, she said to herself. Perhaps a little too easy. Moving on, she spotted more of them near the donut shop's entrance. She could either fight her way through them, or try to sneak around by heading to the middle stairs, off to the right of the building. With little ammo in her possession, Jill decided to decrease secretion. It was better than the valor, and chose the stairs. She headed up to follow the walkway and around the building inside through the door. She found herself in a small storage room with a locked safe on the shelf in front of her. The several shelves of boxes to her left. Another door was at the far end of the room, behind the shelves. Alright, guess I'll ignore the safe for now, since I don't know the code. Better just go through here. As she made her way through the storage area, she couldn't help but think back to Carlos. Yeah, he was UBCS, but still, she felt bad for lumping him with the other mercs. He was generally trying to help her, and yet, she let out a sigh and ran a hand through her hair. Fucking hell, she muttered to herself, distracted as she was in her thoughts. She didn't sense the zombies shuffling towards her from the corner, nor did she hear Murchur screaming at her to watch out. It was only when she felt the damp hands grab to her, and Jill snapped her out of her thoughts again. But it was too late. The zombie pushed her down and bit her into her neck, attempting to tear out her throat. She screamed in pain as the undead creature tore flesh a chunk out of her. Chomping it down, blood poured from her wound as she tried to staunch it. With her hand, after consuming its chunk, the zombies reached down for another bite, only blinding it by the light as she suddenly shined and distracted. She wildly tried to cover its eyes, allowing Jill to shove it off her boot. A voice shouted from the doorway near her, in which the figure was standing. Its appearance was shrouded by the light, making it impossible to see who it was. However, the voice was feminine, and the figure approached, the blast of light from its hand slamming the zombie against the wall and burning it to a dust, even as it moaned at her. Then the creature knelt down beside Jill, who was trying to stop the flow from her neck. Relax, Jillian. I'm here to help, the figure said, holding her hand over her wound. Gentle blue energy flew from her hand, knitting the flesh together and cutting off the flow. As she healed her, Jill noticed the light fading, and slowly a face came into view. Today's not your day to die, Jillian. The city needs you. Shyla? Jill managed to finally gasp, recognizing the ancient queen, and there was a resurrected Redfield ancestor. Smiling in relief, she threw her arms around the woman, sobbing in relief while she felt soft wings wrapped around her trembled body. My apologies that I could not have arrived sooner. I was delayed, she admitted, her tone sincere. Better late than never, I say. Jill grinned as she rose to her feet. Once more the two embraced in the moment. I'm just glad you were here to save my ass. Thanks a lot for that. I owe you one now. You owe me nothing, Jillian. You're the mother of the most recent descent, which makes you family, and that means no one is left behind. She smiled softly. I have other places I need to go, so you're on your own again. but I will be in the area for a little while longer should you require support. You know how to summon me. Try and be more careful this time." Jill nodded before giving one more hug. "Just watch it out there. There's a big monster running around, trying to kill the last of the stars. I don't know where he is right now, but I hope he's not nearby." Shyla frowned. That is why I was delayed. I've been hunting it, as it's been hunting you. I encountered it nearby and managed to keep it busy long enough for you to get out of its range of sense. The creature has developed with a super sense that can smell your presence if you're close enough. I kind of figured as much. That big bastard knew where I was, even when I was hiding. Jill sighed in annoyance. "Go, I will distract it again," Shyla ordered, pushing Jill out of the door of the corridor while she went back outside and flew off. "Be careful, Shyla. We can't lose you again," Jill said, before turning to the mirror, looking very worried at Neptune. "So I guess now that we know this asshole is tracking us." "It would seem, Jillian. It would appear that you could track your scent particles and literal automatic level. No matter where we go, we'll be able to follow from distance, based on the freshness of the scent. We could run, but there's no hiding." "Fuck. That means we'll be only safe at this train station where Carlos is at," Jill replied. "I gotta remember to redo the seal on the door when we get back here eventually. It is possible that you could somehow cover up your scent. Perhaps with a strong perfume or something similar. You might be able to confuse and buy yourself sometime." Jill nodded herself in understanding Moocher's situation. But where the hell was she going to find something that could mask her pheromones? Perhaps something at the pharmacy. It was a drugstore after all. She checked it out on the way back. Right now she needed a way to put out the fire blocking her progress. A fire hose would do the trick, but then she would have to use her water magic to put it out instead of hunting around the city for possible goose chase. That would be an easy option. However, it would occur to her that the monster chasing her might also be able to attract her magic. Using her powers could attract it to her like a beacon. If she wanted to stay under the radar, she would have to do this the old-fashioned way. She groaned and rolled her eyes, forgetting the idea. She left the corridor and went back outside to the balcony. Going down the small metal steps, she looked up and saw letters spelling out the subway company's office on the opposite building. Fine Bros said it, so it was where the office was, but she couldn't do anything about it first without restoring power at the substation. Still, it wouldn't hurt to check it out for anything useful. More undead blocked her path as she passed through another drugstore. She quickly dispatched from them with her assault rifle, then entered the drugstore, looked around for something that might help her from the monstrous beast hunting her. Her pheromones must be pretty strong, as if it to track her halfway across the city. There's gotta be something that could cover up my scent, she whispered to herself, before using her mirror like a flashlight. Let's see, where are the perfumes? She didn't want to spend too much time here, as she was exposed with nowhere to run if that beast had showed up. She silently played that Shyla had already been able to incapacitate it, if only for a while. After a few moments, she unfortunately found nothing that could help her. However, she did find a group of numbers on the poster that were circled for some reason. The way they had been circled resembled in a way that turned the safe dial. She made a mental note of it and left, heading immediately for the subway waste office building. It was right next door, so she could be in and out quickly. Entering the building, she warily kept her eyes on the corpse near the door. Kaysen moved. Following the high hallway was the entrance room. She came in through a door, another hall to the right. At the end of was a fire hose attached to the pump. Another door leading to the office. She pulled off the fire hose and shoved it roughly into her bag of holding. Good thing she had this. It was a pain to lug in those heavy all those way back to the alley. The office interested her, so she entered it. Some lockers were dressed, one which was padlocked, was sealed a bit cabinet upon contained the shotgun rack. The cabinet was chained shut without a lockpick, and without being safe to use her magic, Jill instead took her rifle and bashed the lock with its stock, breaking it off the locker. The door opened and there was a spray inside. The chain on the cabinet, however, would be a greater problem. Bolt cutters would be useful, but she had none, and she wouldn't bash the thick links. They would just not break off easily. She's supposed to be a sailor or soldier. She might be physically strong enough to break the links, but was it even worth trying? She probably would just strain or injure herself. Only one way to find out. Grabbing the chain, she silently counted the free and yanked hard. Her muscles strained hard against the thick links, which buckled, but didn't break. She lost her grip and fell backwards on her ass. I would suggest not trying that again, unless you wish to throw out your shoulder. And annoyed and slightly embarrassed, Jill briefly forgot about not using her magic and smashed the chain with her water pulse. She then ripped over the cabin doors and removed the shotgun. "Come to Mama," she smirked to herself. She stitched up the pump a few shells into the beast's ugly face. Then she remembered the custom parts she picked up. So she took a few moments to disassemble the gun and reassemble it with new parts. "There we go. This will pack a bigger punch now. I hope I don't blow myself off my feet. Shit, he's back. I'd better be careful. If I get trapped in here, I'm done for," she said to herself. Steeling herself with a few deep breaths, she moved carefully for the office, making sure that she was not going to step on anything that would attract the thing's attention. Pluto's time magic would have come in handy right now. She heard heavy footsteps outside, presumably that damn monster. It seemed to be getting closer, but then the footsteps faded as she got further away. Did it change its mind? Was it setting up a trap? Or had something else attracted its attention? Shit, I wish I knew how to tell if he's still outside or not. He's like a fucking hunter, she whispered to Neptune, clutching her gun close to her. I could reach out with my senses and try and pick him up, though. Ugh, I cannot sense the creature. Somehow it doesn't have a signature. At least not one I can trace. Umbrella were through hiding their involvement this time. Damn it, there goes that plan. Wait! Jill remembered the radio. "Carlos, it's Jill. Do you copy?" She whispered into the receiver, which cracked with static in response. Either way, he must be busy, or electronic interference was blocking the signals. Sighing and shrugging, she moved on to the left of the office, cautiously listening out for the big boy. She heard nothing else and went back outside. Knowing what she did now, she had a choice to make. She could either go back in the storage room and open the safe, and then continue the alley, or she could check out the donut shop. She might not get the chance to do both, so she decided not to bother with the safe, and carefully made her way over to the donut shop. It was abandoned, as everywhere else. Nothing in the main sitting area was of any use, so she went to the office behind the counter. There wasn't much out of the ordinary except for an ordinary box. She opened up and required a red gem. She now had both of the missing stones. Great! Now when I go back, I could place the rest of the gems there, and hopefully get some good stuff from the inside clock. Stuff that I might need later on, Jill muttered to herself. She then made her way out of the shop and back up towards the toy store. As the alley was near it, upon reaching it, she pulled up the fire hose attached to the hydrant, spraying forceful water all over the burning alley, and extinguished the flames. Progress, she said to herself, passing through into a workshop. There was a box and storing stuff, some lockers, which are padlocked, and had a set of bolt cutters on the wall. She considered taking them since her magic attracted the hunter. As the door led out of the wood shop, which chained out, putting her ear to the door, she could hear whimpering on the other side, accompanied by heavy breathing. Was someone in there? Were they injured? Using the bolt cutters, she cut off the chain and opened the door to see someone slumped against the car, blood covering its front gash in its leg immediately. Jill went inside to check him out. "Hey, are you alright?" She paused and checked him out, only served as unnerved man. "Hey, don't look at me like that, okay? I'm not infected," he quickly said, defending himself. "It's okay. I'm not going to kill you. Just take me." Just then, her senses went off and she whipped around just in time to see her mirror as a barrier as a gunshot went off, sending the bullet rushing away. "What the fuck?" "You again?" Somewhat deep male voice answered, belonging to a white-haired Russian man who had been talking to Carlos and Michaela earlier at the station. "You should have shot him. He's clearly injured by the infected." and likely will be infected himself. Give me a chance to look him over, asshole. Let me be the judge of that. Jill hissed and looked back at him, her eyes shining dimly with anger, before turning back to the male, keeping the barrier up just in case he tried to pull something along with her back was turned. Alright, let me look at you. The UBCS guy with the white hair scoffed. All your stars this soft? It's no wonder why most of you are dead. Jill clenched her jaw in anger, but chose not to say anything, as she began to use her water magic to clean off the blood and checked out the injured man's wounds. The white-haired man was clearly annoyed by this. You're wasting your time. If he's infected, which extremely is likely, he's going to turn. Where's your sense of self-preservation? He insulted, leaning against the wall. How about you shut the hell up and let me get to work right now? Now, we got monsters running and with a big bastard out there, taking out survivors standing in its way. We need to work on together on this. As much as I hate to say it, especially since you two work with sons of bitches who caused all this. Jill snapped back at him. The white-haired man scoffed again and began walking to another exit of the garage. You should not waste your precious time with these helpless people. They've already lost. Go back to the station and stay there. We don't need a bleeding heart like you getting in the way. Asshole, she muttered angrily, and turned her back to the other man. As she peeled back the vest, she saw a discoloration of the rims of the wound, along with the unmistakable marks of human teeth. Shit! As much as she hated to believe in him, the poor old bastard was probably right. This guy showed signs of injury of a zombie, which meant a virus was in his system. I know it looks bad, but I can't just die out here. Not like this. I don't want to become a zombie, he said, both looking and sounding worried. Allow me to oblige, the white-haired UBCS man had returned, and before Jill had a chance to put up the barrier again, the man had shot the wounded one in the chest, killing him instantly before he left again. I don't like him, Jill hissed under her breath to Neptune. I confess I'm not practically attached to him either, but he'd probably save you the trouble of having to kill a zombie later. Still, something about him rubs me the wrong way, Jill replied, as she followed after the white-haired man. The substation was on the way, so she had to go anyway.